Hi ladies and gents, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, welcome. If you're a continued subscriber, thank you for your continued support, and I hope you learned something today. So, I know a lot of you got a 3D printer for Christmas. Maybe you're at awe at the fact that you can print literally anything you want. From Pokemon, to Ninja Turtle, to Star Wars figures, to Marvel figures. But you're kind of disappointed at the fact that your prints look like this. Well, I got good news for you. I can show you how to make them look like this. So stick around, and throughout this video, I'll give you some pointers, I'll give you tips, I'll help you develop a workflow and get some really cheap materials for your journey in painting your 3D prints. Alright, check these craft paints out. If you're just getting into the hobby, I'm here to tell you you don't need to get all fancy and break the bank. Vallejo, Army Painter paints, and Citadel, great paints. But that's for a little bit more advanced. If you're just getting into the hobby, I recommend these craft paints. I mean, eventually I do recommend that you get those paints, but once you're a little bit more experienced and you're more comfortable with painting and you know that you're going to stick around with this hobby, since those paints are going to be a little bit more expensive. I mean, look at it like this, right? When you first got your license, your first car, if your experience is anything like mine, you got a hoopty or a beater car, because if you destroyed it, it was not a big loss. The same thing with these paints. You're dipping your toes into the hobby to see if you like it and want to continue. And if your net loss is only a few dollars, if you decide not to pursue this, then you're only lost a few dollars. For priming, I always use my airbrush. And as you can see, I'm not opposed to using Vallejo paints, as this is my primer of choice. The reason I use an airbrush is because we get cold winters in the Northeast, and I can't use rattle paint outdoors in the cold. I refuse to use rattle can paints outdoors when I could use an airbrush indoors. If you are going to get into airbrush, I do recommend this airbrush and compressor kit from Harbor Freight. But if all you're doing is priming, just stick to spray paint rattle can primer, like this one from Duplicolor. I will put all these materials in the description below so you can purchase them. I do recommend you start slow though and build a collection over time. Like I said, you want to be into the hobby for a few dollars before you decide if you like it and want to invest a little bit more. The paints I have on screen right now are $1 and change each and are readily available at any hobby store. My go-to hobby store is Hobby Lobby, and my brand of preference is Folk Art. I also like their Master's Touch branded brushes. These are listed on their website at the time of recording for $6.50, but I have found them on sale for 40% off. You can probably get away with other brand brushes, but I can only recommend what I use. Once you get comfortable with painting and have destroyed all the quote-unquote cheap brushes, you can move on and treat yourself to something more expensive. The other tools I like to use are these palettes from the dollar store, which come in a pack of 3, which is where I mix my paints and use a drop of distilled water with this dropper syringe to thin the paints to give it an even consistency. If you need to mix more paint, more volume, I recommend these mini solo cups or plastic shot glasses, which I use with coffee stirrers, which can all be bought from the dollar store. One app I always recommend is Color Mixer, but I tend to get the exact color I need or something close if all I am doing is painting with brush, since these paints are so cheap. If I'm using airbrush, that is a whole different story. I previously bought the kit of prime colors from Createx. The pack of 6 will set you back about $26, but that is because airbrush paints are made specially for airbrush. Pigments are ground very fine so they can flow through the airbrush, and because they are also much more expensive, I buy the prime colors and use the Color Mixer app to give me an idea as to which colors to use to achieve the desired color. The greatest part of this hobby is that you have a 3D printer, and if you mess up, you can always reprint the model and start over until you get things right. Consistency and practice help you achieve better results, acquire better abilities, and develop better habits and better techniques. The times I messed up is what helped me find a better workflow and better techniques to achieve better results. YouTube is a great resource. I like to think that eventually I will become a great resource, but there are lots of channels on this platform that will help you on your journey. Happy 3D printing. If this is your first time here, please won't you consider subscribing. If you're a returning subscriber, thank you for your continued support. If you like the video, please give it a like, which helps a ton in the algorithm. Take care of yourselves and your loved ones. Peace.